Happy Memorial Day weekend. It's a little different service than we often have because this weekend we're especially thinking about those loved ones who have touched our lives. Those people who have gone before us that have touched our lives. And, those of you who are on text in church, I sent a message yesterday, so in the future we'll give more advance notice. I came from Unity in Marin where we were used to setting up pictures of our loved ones, and I came here and it's like, so anyway, next year, just know we'll have a table set up so that you can bring pictures of your loved ones. I think many of us, maybe all of us, have loved ones who have passed on, who have really touched our lives. I'm thinking of, I just found out this morning, one of our dearly loved people here lost her husband, missing in action since 1966 in North Vietnam, and has not heard anything since. What is it that's in your heart? A lot of us hold these places, these spaces in our hearts, and we wonder, what do we do with them? What do we do with these feelings? What do we do with this grief? Do we just try to do a spiritual bypass and affirm that everything's okay? And certainly, in the absolute, in the end, everything is okay. In the absolute, all of our loved ones are cared for. In the absolute, they're never gone, really. They've moved from one room to another. But still, doesn't it leave spaces within us that are challenging to deal with? On the table, I have both of my brothers who have passed. So they're gone, they've moved on, but their memory and their spirit lives on with me, and my father and my close friend who just passed. All of that affects us. All of that is part of us. And in unity, we not only believe in the unity of all people and that we have unity with God, we believe that we have unity with all the feelings and all the things that are going on within us. We are about integrating all of these things in us, not, just suppressing them or dissociating from them, but knowing what is going on inside and embracing it. It can be very challenging work. And that's part of being the beloved community. The beloved community is a community that continues to hold each other and support each other and be there for one another. It is a community that loves no matter what. It is a community that sees you and knows you, whatever your sexual orientation, whatever your race, whatever your faith background or lack thereof, wherever you are, whoever you are. The beloved community knows that you are the presence of God and loves you unconditionally. Amen. And that's what we are. That's what we are about. That's what we are building here. We are about being the beloved community, being that for one another. So sometimes at Unity churches, because we're a very positive, practical approach to spirituality, sometimes people put on this happy face and feel like they have to put on a happy face. I learned in seminary that it can be good sometimes for the congregation to know that the minister is real and to say sometimes something in a confessional capacity. So here's my confession. I don't always feel like smiling when I come to church. Sometimes there's things that are deep and happening inside of me, and it's like, oh God, give me strength. Help me. Because that's part of being human. Last night when I went to bed at kind of at the foot of my bed is a big picture of Jesus. And I'm like, thank you for being with me. Thank you for never leaving me. I'm so glad that no matter what happens in life, we have that presence of God with us at all times. So just know that we are a community to be here for you. And just know that wherever you are, God is. That there's no spot that God is not. That whatever you are experiencing, whatever you are going through in your life, God is. God is present as that situation, as those people in your lives. As I think about Memorial Day, also called Decoration Day, because often it's when people decorate graves of loved ones or of the military who have given their lives. In my historical research, and maybe you don't know this. Now, if you look online and look up when was the first Memorial Day celebration, they'll give you a particular date and they'll talk about New York. But a whole year before that, at the end of the Civil War, right at the end of the Civil War in Charleston, South Carolina, Union soldiers, and Charleston was where the Civil War officially started, okay? So there were Union soldiers who were kept in this clubhouse of this racetrack, and they had been exposed to the elements and to the cold. A bunch of them had died. Right at the end of the war, they were hastily buried. People who had been enslaved, black people who had been enslaved, came to the graves of those Union soldiers and gave them a proper burial. And about 10,000 of them, along with some white missionaries, led a parade on that racetrack to celebrate those who gave their lives for freedom. So, according to research that's just recently been uncovered, the first Memorial Day, Decoration Day, was led by the people who had been enslaved, who had been freed, and wanted to pay their homage, their tribute to the fallen soldiers who had fought for their freedom. Did you know that? X knew that. Benita knows it. It's parts of our history, and you may wonder, well, why didn't I ever hear that? Well, history is written, okay. Was it to the benefit of the white people in power in Charleston, South Carolina, the originating place of the Civil War, to mention in history that the first Memorial Day was led by freed, enslaved black people who buried Union soldiers? There's why you didn't hear about it. Okay? So we continue to honor all of those people who've contributed to our lives, and all of those fallen service people. We continue to honor them and remember them and not forget them. Now, the power of the month is mastery. That's been the power of the month of May. And sometimes it's called power. But that sounds redundant, the power of power. So often I call it the power of mastery. And so whether we're talking about being the salt of the earth, being the light of the world, being this presence in the world, being a hero in someone else's life, we are talking about mastery. Being that hero in the world, being that presence of God in the world. So I want to bring some scriptures forward. And first of all, I want to tell a story before we show that scripture, Kathy. Okay, you may know that in the Gospels there's this story about thousands of people who gathered. It says 5,000 men. Okay, this was written in a very patriarchal age where they counted the men. 5,000 men. So add women, children, so at least 10,000 people had gathered to hear Jesus speak. And so Jesus is speaking, and he says to Philip, says to his disciples, feed these people. They're like, say what? How are we going to feed thousands of people? Have you ever faced a situation that just seemed insurmountable, that seemed way beyond your means? You wondered, how is this going to happen? How am I going to meet this need? How am I going to meet this financial need? How am I going to face this physical situation? How am I going to face this relationship issue? How am I going to face this situation in my life? Well, Jesus was asking, will you feed them? 10,000 some people. How would you react? If you had no food and you were told, feed 10,000 people. Have you ever had a group over to your house and found out you didn't have enough food? Now, some of you know. Some of you, I know you fix 3 times as much as is needed. But it can sure be a challenge if you find out, oh, there's more people who showed up. Like they weren't expecting 10,000 people to show up. So there was a boy there. This boy just had a little bit of food. Now, this miracle can be read in a couple of different ways, and either one is great. So there was this multiplication of the food where everyone had enough. All 10,000 had enough. And there were 12 baskets of food left over afterwards. First of all, the lesson is there's no lack. There's only sufficiency. There's only abundance. Everything we need is right here. So please repeat after me. Everything I need is right here. And so they were all fed. There were 12 baskets left over. Now, some people read that as, and this is wonderful, that Jesus performed this miracle and multiplied all the food and all of that. And that's really cool. There's another way to read this miracle too. Charles Barclay, a Bible commentator clear back in the 50s, was talking about this. How about you read it this way? That when the 10,000 people that were there saw the faith of this little boy bringing forth his little bit of food, all of those people who had traveled a great distance, who no doubt before they left home put some food underneath for themselves, they saw the faith of this boy and they all began to give as the community had need. And there is more than enough. I think about the heroes in our lives as people who gave to us, gave unselfishly, gave out of love, did not hold back. I'd like to show this passage of Scripture now from Acts chapter 4, verse 32. This comes from the Living Bible. All the believers were of one heart and mind. Not one felt that what they owned was their own. Everyone was sharing. So whether it was of their finances, whether it was of their gifts of love to one another, each one gave. And when I think about it, the heroes in our lives, those that we are celebrating this weekend that have passed on, and those who are still living, that contribute to our lives, are heroes. They have shared with us. They have shared with us unselfishly. There are people who have given to my life. There's no way I could ever repay all that they've done for me. At least one of them is watching right now. Have you ever had someone who has given so much to your life that there's no way to repay them? Well, I want to suggest here's a way you can try to repay them. Pay it forward. Amen. Pay it into someone else's life. Give unselfishly to someone else's life. Give unselfishly of your gifts, of your love, of who you are, of your means in your spiritual community, in the wider community. Give of yourself. Think of those heroes in your life and what made them heroes. What was their quality? I mean, for a lot of us, it might be unselfishness. It might be they taught us about love. I don't know. What were the lessons that they taught you? And so I want us to consider that each one of us is a hero. Each one of us is a hero in someone's life. Each one of us has people who are looking up to us and is looking to us for an example. Once in a while, and it blows me away, and I'm a little embarrassed even to say it, but it just blows me away. Once in a while, someone will come to me and say, well, I was in this real difficult situation, and in that situation, I asked myself, what would Reverend Tim do? People are watching. Someone is watching you. You are an example for someone. Someone is looking to you to help show them about life. And you may not even be aware of it. Each one of you touches my life, and you touch other people's lives around you. And you may not even realize how important that is. I think of my friend Virginia, and I don't know, her parents may be watching. Close friend of mine who recently passed from this world. How she gave of her love, how she gave of her humor, how she gave of her music. She was a singer, a composer, she was an artist, how she gave teaching people art. Each and every one of you is giving. I recently have been reading this book. Thank you, Joe, for this book, Change We Must by Nana Viri, who talks about the old Hawaiian ways. She moved from old Hawaiian traditional spiritual beliefs to Pentecostalism, the spiritualism, to metaphysical thought. It's a real interesting journey. And she talks about how each and every one of us are this divine presence, and to not fear death. Let me just read just a little bit of this, because death perhaps is one of the greatest fears we have. The change people fear most is death, but this is a needless fear. We are God wearing a garment of flesh. When we get through our time on earth, we must shed this body because it is too gross to carry further. We have to drop it just like taking our clothes off. We came with nothing, and we leave with nothing. She goes on to say, when friends who have not seen me for a long time ask me what I have been doing, I tell them I'm getting ready for my next trip. When you get to my age, what else can you do? If you know very well the trip you have to make, you had better get ready for it. But life is so beautiful that every day I am deeply thankful. When I wake up in the morning, I stretch in bed, and as soon as I open my eyes, I say, thank you, Father, for this new day, which means a new beginning for me. We can grieve those who have passed, and I like to embrace all the ways in which they've given to my life. I like to embrace all the ways in which you have ministered to me. I wish to see the life that they continue to live. All of you are heroes. Every single one of you. So I want to ask 3 questions of you. So if we could put up that first question, Kathy. In what ways are you sharing in your spiritual community with others around you and in the world? Do you believe that there's enough for us? Now, let me ask that question again, and I'd like you to answer honestly. Do you believe that there's enough for all of us? All right. So there's about 10 or 15 of you. I encourage you to really believe into that there's enough for us. Sometimes we think there's not enough time to stop and talk to this person in front of me. I need to do something else. And so we rush on. But do you know that when you stop and talk with that person, you are making an eternal investment? Wouldn't you like to make eternal investments? When you invest in a person, they invest in others. It multiplies exponentially and it never stops. When you invest in people, it never stops. So how do you share with others? How do you invest in this spiritual community? Secondly, in what ways are you investing in the lives of others? How are others influenced by your life? What is it that you do? Are you even aware of it? Maybe you're not. But how do you invest in the lives of others? Our mission is centered in God. We transform lives, so we're very much about transformation of lives, and inspire people to make a positive difference in our world. We're here to inspire us all to make a positive difference in our world. So in what ways are you doing that? Thirdly, who is looking to you as an example? What is your example showing them? Now, you may not know. You may not know. I see Gerald and Catherine back here. Animal whisperers who talk with animals and lead lives of love, just being love wherever they go. That so touches my life. I've never told them. Who are you touching? I see Joe's smile and her soft voice that loves everybody. It so touches me. You are touching people's lives by being who you are. Some people are afraid that the spiritual life will call them to be something that they're not. The spiritual life calls you to be who you truly are and to let go of the stuff, the BS that doesn't belong to you. We are here to help you to transform into who you truly are, to be heroes in one another's lives, to see that divine presence living as you, expressing as you. You are here to be someone's hero. And so we remember all of you this weekend. We remember all of you. However you give to the world, however you invest in other people's lives, know that that gift never stops. The stock market can never bankrupt it. People can never take it away. When you have touched other people's lives, when you have influenced other people's lives, that never stops. And that is what we are called to do. That is how we are called to show mastery. Thank you.